Welcome back to Coding with Hydro. Previous episode, we created a game window for our future game called Frogger. Just to go over some of the stuff we did, let's make the screen a little bit zoomed in here. Is we imported the library Pygame. I imported it as PG, so I didn't have to write Pygame down all the time. I imported sys, which is just another library. pg.init, which was initialize Pygame. We created a game window that I've named screen. So screen now just holds the display information, which is 600 by 600. We created a variable called running, and we set that equal to true. We started our very basic first game loop, and what I'm saying here is while running is true, I want you to create a variable called game events, and I want you to equal pygame.event.get, and that is just holding every event that is happening inside my window. And then for event, which event is just another variable I made up inside game event, which is, so game event at this point is holding everything that happened in that frame at that instant is inside that variable called game event. And what I want you to do is I want you to go through that list of everything that's happened in that frame. And if that event dot type was pg.quit, which we determined was clicking the exit button or the X button on my game window, if that happens, I want you to set running defaults. And by doing that, it closes out this loop because it's going to go back to the top and go while running is true. Oh, running's not true no more. Alright, what's next on the list? Pygame.quit, sys exit. And then it'll close out. And I want to show you what all happens inside this Pygame event. So if you remember from the last video, I showed you how to print, right? So I'm going to print game events, right? So let me go back to the other screen, or you are not going to see it. So when I run this now, we should get our game window open, and it should stay open until I click the exit button and turn this variable running defaults, right? Jeez, excuse me. But while it's running, down in this area down here at the bottom, all the game events that are happening inside this variable will be printing out down here. So you can see all type of things that happen. It's going to be happening kind of quick, but you'll be able to see what happens. So let's hit run. Right, Frogger opens, right? Now this symbol that's showing down there is an open bracket and a closed bracket. And that's just basically saying, here's my container and there's nothing in it. It's like holding a list or an array or any other term you want to use. It's empty right now. But watch when I move my mouse over the screen. Oh, what's happening? You probably can't read it because it's happening so fast. But it's actually saying mouse position, and it's recording my mouse position at any given second, hitting a button, hitting a keyboard press. All these things are happening. I mean, I want to slow it down for you. I can slow it down for you, but I'll get to that at a later point. I just want to show that all these things are happening. They're happening so fast it's hard to see, but they're happening. So let's close this out. And I'm now going to comment this out. If you remember, commenting just means I'm telling it, hey, just skip over this line. It doesn't matter to you, right? And I'm commenting out instead of deleting it because I may want to open that up again, which I'm going to. So now while I'm thinking about speed, all right, so we're creating a game called Frogger, right, was the attempt. Or it's what we're going to attempt to make anyway. As far as the amount of processing power and graphical power that's going to be needed to create this game, which is not going to be much. This computer, any computer nowadays should be able to just fly through Frogger. So if we don't limit how fast this game processes this game loop we've created, we're not going to be able to control it. It's going to be running so dang fast, we're just not going to know what to do, right? So we have to create something to limit it, to make it run at only a certain, I'm going to say, frames per second. And basically, with no limit, this loop is running as fast as my computer can process it. And I'll show you this later when we get to it. But if I limit it to, let's say, 30, it will process this game loop only 30 times a second. If I say 60, it'll process this loop 60 times every second. And how we do that is we create another variable, and I'm going to call it clock, because that seems to be the thing. We call it clock, and all it is pygame.time dot capital C clock, right? And that by itself doesn't do anything, but I'm setting a variable, and I want it to hold the information of the clock, right? Now, to actually use this variable, we're going to go to the beginning of our game loop, right? Because I want this clock to tick every time the game loop happens. I don't want to just have it tick once and then just run as fast as we can. It has to be every time the loop goes back to the beginning. It needs to re-click the time. It's making sure it all stays whatever frames per second we make it. So I'm going to say clock dot tick. So you noticed how this time it doesn't give me any IntelliText or whatever you want to call it. I don't know why. I guess it doesn't. And then it's going to open and close parentheses. Now, inside the parentheses, what I want to put is how many frames per second I want this game to run. Right? If I put 10, that's quite slow, right? But let's see if we open this back up so it prints our events again back down at the bottom. Let's see if they're easier to read. They maybe will. We'll see, right? So there you go. See? The game is only ticking 10 frames a second now, which is easier for us to read, right? It's too slow for a game to play, any kind of action game, that's for sure. But you can see what's happening, right? It's recording all my my mouse positions that are happening, right? It's saying my button, my buttons are 0, 0, 0, which is recording my 3 buttons, right? If I hit a button, there you go. It's telling me that my position of my mouse and that button 1 was being pressed, or button 3. My scroll wheel, which is button 4, is being pushed. But as you can see, what you couldn't see before because it was moving so fast was what's actually happening. And like I said, all that is happening inside game event. That's literally what game event every frame is holding. It's holding all that information that's happening, right? So we are going to tick it at 30 for now. We're going to go to 30 frames per second, which will probably move to 60 by the end of this. But at this point, I don't need it to be blazing fast. It's easier to do things when it's moving a little slower, especially if you make something wrong and whatever you're trying to move on the screen goes shooting off the screen. It's kind of hard to figure out what happened. Okay, so what do we want to do next? Well, I want to make one more event, right? I want to either be able to hit the exit button, which we got, but I also want to hit escape to exit. And escape probably will be turned into a maybe pause, but for now I want also escape to exit. So we're going to do that down here. So down here, right, we have if event.type is pg.quit, right? That's its own thing. Moving on. Now, the escape button is tracked inside Pygame as something as a key down, right? A keyboard button down is how you can think about it, right? So it's not, if it was another, let's see, it's hard to explain. Basically, key down is another event type. So I can't just put if it's quit or if it's key down. Well, actually I could. I could say if the event type is .quit, make it running false, else if event .type equals pg dot uh-oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, there you go, one equal sign. It's telling me you can't make it equal to it. Evaluate. If it is pg dot k, which k stands for key, I believe, or keyboard, we want down, right? If it's a key pressed down on my keyboard, okay, so what? Now we got to tell it what key. So if, right? So this is an if inside my if, right? So if it goes in here, right, it's going to go here, and then it's going to go here, and it's just going to keep going down these if statements to basically find the answer to the question I'm asking. And the question I'm asking, or trying to ask, is did the escape key get hit, right? So if the event was a key down, if the event dot key, right, the key, right, we have the type, which is the key down. Now the key, I'm trying to, what key was it, right? If it equals pg dot k in escape, right? Which would be the escape key. If it was that, then what? You got it. Running equals false. And essentially, hopefully, we're going to take out this print. I don't need this printing at the bottom anymore. Oh, did you guys not even see the printing earlier? You didn't. Or did I? I can't remember. So we're going to run it real quick at 10. Just in case you guys couldn't see it, because you might not have been able to. Crap. Horrible. I'll probably cut that whole section out. If you couldn't. But if you can, we're going to do it, or you couldn't, we're going to do it again right now. Right? Our window's open. And there you go. You can see everything printing out at the bottom. All my mouse positions and buttons being pushed and things like that. Alright. So, what did we do right now? We have, if I hit the exit button, it should X, right? And there's my event right there at the bottom, last one, event 2, quit. So now we open up again. What else did we just tell it we wanted to do? We want if I hit the escape button. So, if I've done it right, which I might not have, we'll see me not doing things right a lot of times in this whole series, and that's the point of why I'm wanting to do it, because what doing things wrong help you learn, obviously, how to do things right and how to do things better. So if the event dot type is quit, basically this elif is saying or if the event dot with a key down, and if the key was the escape key, set it defaults. So hopefully, if I hit the escape key, it should close as well. And it does. Voila. Perfect. So we're going to set that back to 30. We're going to zoom back in. And I am truly sorry if you guys couldn't see that whole spew earlier. Alright. So what do we want to do now? We have our window. We have our basic game loop. Let me take out this print so it doesn't happen. what do we want to do? How about we name our window now, right? And to name our window now, we don't have to set a variable to change the game window. There's just one. It already knows what display I'm talking about. I have one open, right? So I'm just going to put pg.display.set caption, right? And inside here, I create a string. Remember, surrounded by quotation marks, meaning I want you to equal this sentence, basically. It's just a string of text, string of letters. We are going to say Frogger, right? So that should be the top of our window now. It should say Frogger, which it does. Another small victory. Alright, what do we want to do now? Do we want to start drawing things to the screen? What do we want to do? Well, you know what? We're going to draw a simple square to the screen, right? This is just to show a simple square and how you may do it. Now, this is not going to be how we do it in the end, because this way would be very labor intensive. By that means, like if I create a square, sorry, we'll do it right up here. If I create a square, we're going to call it square, right? If I create a square and I call it pg.surface, and we are going to make it 20 by 20. Oops, needs to be in tuples. Right. So that creates a square. All right. But if we run, we're not going to see anything, right? Let me just keep it on the screen. Yep, see, you're not going to see anything, right? Why is that? Because we haven't drawn anything on the screen. We've just created something called square, and it's holding the information to make a square 20 pixels by 20 pixels. Now, can I just straight draw it to the screen now? I don't know. Let's just straight try to draw it to the screen. I don't know if I can. We'll see if this works. I'm going to say screen, right? So where do I want it to get drawn to? To our variable screen. Now .blit. I'm going to look up to what blit means, but if I remember, it's just an old term, and all it does is I'm saying I want screen, and blit, I want you to draw it to that, right? Now, I don't think I can do this because it's going to require me to, I need to put what I want to draw, my square, but also by what. Let's just say, if I say, shoot, I don't think this is going to work. I don't think this is going to work. That's not how that works. No, it's going to tell me I can't do that, right? Invalid destination for blit. You can see this. Oh no, you can't see it. Down here at the bottom, all this red text is bad, right? It's basically telling me that 300 by 300 I put in there is a no-go. Come up with something better, right? So, up here now is I'm going to create something to hold its rectangle, right? This rectangle, think of it as its hitbox. Every image that I'm going to draw to the screen has got a border on it, and it's a rectangle. And that's how later we're going to detect whether something intersects with each other or move it around the screen. We're going to move it by its coordinates based on its rect, right? And you're going to hear me say get rect a lot because that's just what you have to put. So we're going to say square underscore rect equals, now for rectangle you have to type in what you want, right? Square now equals, get rect, right? So what the square rect now does is records what I'm saying here is here's my square, and what it is a surface. It's 20 pixels by 20 pixels. My square rect it's just holding the information of my square rectangle. It's holding the information, all my coordinates for my square, right? So there's one more thing that I need to do. So if I wanted to position it now, I would have to say square underscore rect dot x, and I'm going to explain all this that I'm doing later. But because this is not exactly how it is how we're going to do it, but not exactly like this. And I'll tell you why when we get there. We're going to equal, and I'm going to say 300, right? So that's right here. All I'm saying is now I have this square rect information, right? Now with that, its x coordinate, I want you to put at 300, right? And the next one, now we also have y coordinates, right? So I want to do the exact same square rect, but dot x. This dot x and y, I'm not making up. That's something that everything has built in the Pygame. The rect, I have a dot x, dot y, top, bottom, left, right, all kinds of things I can put there. Center x, center y. But just to show it off, I'm going to say equals 300 for this as well. Oops. And if you could think about this, right? Our screen is 600 by 600. I've created a square that's 20 pixels by 20 pixels. I have its rectangular information. I want its x to be at 300 and its y to be at 300, which that is in the center of the screen. It should be right in the center of our game window, right? Now down here where I messed up is I actually believe this has to be, does it? We'll figure that out. I don't know if it has to be in the loop. It might have to be inside the loop to happen every frame. But like I said, I don't normally do it this way, but I'm trying to show you how to simply create just a square on the screen that we technically can't do anything with, but we're drawing it there. So what it's asking for down here now is its rectangle. It wants to draw it on the screen. I want to draw the square, add its rectangular information that we've created up here, right? So let's see what happens. And oh, still nothing. Any guesses why? I mean, we have a square. We said where we want it. Now why isn't it there? Well, there's two things actually. There is no color to my square, right? And two, well, we'll fix the color thing first, right? I am going to say down here in my loop, which I'm just going to put square dot fill tuples, right? And I'm going to say inside this tuple for the fill, it's asking for an RGB color, which is just red, green, and blue, separated by commas. If I said 0, 0, 0, that's black. That is no color whatsoever. Obviously, it's black. The first 0 is red, second green, and blue, right? And they go from 0 to 255. There's 256 colors, but 0 is the first color, not 1. You'll find when we get to other things, 0 is where counting starts, not at 1. So, if I wanted it to be white, it would be 255 by 255 by 255. White is all the colors, right? So, let's see what happens now. Will it show up? No. Why does it not show up this time? Good exercise in what's happening, right? This is happening 30 times, because I've set the clock to tick at 30 times, 30 times a second. Actually, this should draw. If I'm not mistaken. Interesting. We are going to move this information now in. I think it needs to go in the loop. Let's see what happens now. Still nothing. Any ideas? Because again, I was wrong again. There's one more thing you have to do. Right? So I've told it to build my square and display my square, right? There's one more thing we have to do. We also have to tell Pygame to update the display, because if we don't, well, you can draw it all day, but if you don't update it, the screen, which is just updating everything on the screen, if you don't update it, it's not going to show. So pygame.display.update. And last thing I did, I forgot that for so long, and I almost just did it again. Let's see if it shows up now. Hey. Oh, geez, move it down to your guys' way. There you go. We have a white square in the center of a rectangle. Or in the center of our game window. Hooray, right? I know, it seems like a long time, right? To just get a square. But that square, well, not that one particularly, but it's going to be the basis for our game. Our frog is going to be a square at first. Our cars going across the screen are going to be squares at first. Our logs are going to be rectangles at first, right? We're going to build the game with squares and rectangles, get the gameplay right, and then maybe move on to sprites, which would be our drawings over top of these squares, and sound effects, right? So if you notice though, this is, you might not be able to tell, but it's not quite in the center of the screen. And here's something, since we finally have something at the screen to look at. I wonder if this will be easier, right? It is hard for you guys to tell because you guys are just seeing one small square dot inside of a huge black space now. But if you remember in schooling, or if you're still in school, especially in math, and you had the map coordinates, right? You had a cross, and the center of that cross was X and Y, 0, 0. So right in the center, let's say, of my screen would be 0, 0. That's not how it works. Same idea, different. Instead of right here in the center of our screen, right? This is not 0, 0. top left corner of your game window is 0, 0. X coordinates run across the top. Y coordinates run along the bottom. This is x0 through x600, right? Because we made it 600 by 600. And then y down from y0 to y600, right? So if I wanted this square to move up the screen, I would be minusing values off its x coordinate. So if this is y300, right? To move this up 1 pixel, I would say y299, 298, and so forth to move it up the screen. And increase the values of x to move my square to the right, and minus values off the x to move it to the left, which we'll get more to eventually. But for now, just know the top left corner is 0, 0, is our origin, top left corner. Alright guys, I'm going to end this video there. I went on for another 20 minutes that I'm going to make my next video with, so don't worry, I'm going to upload it right together, but I just didn't want to make this video any longer than it already is. I mean, they're dry enough, they don't need to be an hour of dry. We made a square. See if you can play with the code and see if you can add another square. And when we come back, we'll try that, and we'll go through reasons of why doing it the way I did it was we shouldn't do that way, because it's going to be unusable to us. But anyway, just practice. Look up some Pygame stuff and see if you can add anything. I did notice by watching this video, though, I really need to make that border around my screen so you guys can see the game window when I'm in that Coding with Hydro screen. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Hydro Mike, and you've been watching Coding with Hydro. Later.